Hi everyone, it's Megan here from Meghan Makes Do, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful double rice stitch knit stitch. I use this stitch in my brand new Wesson vest knit pattern. It's a gorgeous stitch. It's super simple to make. Basically, if you know how to knit and purl, you'll be able to do this stitch as well. It's an easy 4-row repeat, and for today's tutorial I am using Lion Brand's Heartland yarn in the color Grand Canyon. It's a weight 4 yarn, and it comes in some amazing beautiful colors. It's very soft, and it works out beautifully. I will also be using size 9, US size 9, 5.5 millimeter knitting needles, and I again always prefer to use circulars, but you can also use straight needles if you prefer. So let's go ahead and get started learning how to do the double rice stitch. Okay, so to start the double rice stitch, I am using my size 9 5.5 millimeter needles, and I like to use circular knitting needles even when I'm doing just rows. I find it easier to maneuver. So what you're going to want to do is cast on using your preferred cast on method. I like to use the long tail cast on method, and you're going to want to cast on an odd number of stitches. So for this tutorial I'm just going to go ahead and cast on 19 stitches. Okay, so now that we have our 19 stitches on our needles, we're going to go ahead and start row 1. So the back of our work is where we're going to be doing the most complicated part of our stitches. So rows 1 and 3 are going to be the wrong side, and rows 2 and 4 are going to be on the right side. So we're going to start with a purl stitch. And then we're just going to purl 1, and then we're going to knit 1 through the back loop. So normally we go through the front like this, but to knit 1 in the back loop, we're going to stick our needle through the back of our loop and then knit. And then we're going to purl 1, and then knit 1 through the back loop. And this first row is always a little bit harder to maneuver just because it's our first row after our cast on. And we're just going to repeat that. So we're going to purl 1 and then knit 1 through the back loop. And we're going to do that all the way across our row until we've gotten to our last stitch. Okay, so here we are on our last stitch. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to purl our last stitch. So we're starting and ending with a purl stitch. Then we're going to turn and work a row 2, and we're just going to knit all stitches all the way across. Okay, so there's the end of row 2. Turn your work, and for row 3 we're going to be doing the opposite of what we did for row 1. So we are going to start our row by knitting 1 through the back loop and then purling 1. And then we're going to repeat that. So knit 1 through the back loop and purl 1 all the way across our row until we have 1 stitch left. Okay, so now we've gotten to our last stitch and we're going to knit that stitch through the back loop. So row 3 repeats, you are going to start and end with the knit 1 through the back loop. So we're just doing the opposite of what we did on the other side. Then we're going to turn our work, and a row 4 is going to be just like row 2. We are going to knit all stitches across. Okay, so here's what we'll have at the end of row 4. And you can start to see our double race stitch. You can start to see the texture that comes through. And what you're going to do is you're just going to repeat those 4 rows for as long as you like until you get the hang of the stitch. So I'm going to do a few more rows here, a few more pattern repeats of rows 1 through 4. And then I'll come back and show you a trick for knowing what row you're on. Just in case you get stuck and you're not sure which row you've done last, either the row 1 or the row 3 repeat. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I just finished a few more rows of the pattern repeat, and you can kind of see the texture a little bit better here. You can see it kind of goes almost like on a diagonal line here, because of the way that the stitches line up. So if you ever put your project down, or maybe you're doing some armhole shaping or neckline shaping and you're not exactly sure what row you're on or what stitch to do next in order to keep this pattern going, there's a really easy way. So I just finished a knit row, so now I'm turning my work and I'm going to either have to do a row 1 or row 3 repeat, but I don't remember where I'm at. So if we kind of spread out our stitches on our needle here and look at it from this direction, you can see these little, like the backs of the purl stitches here, or like the front of the purl stitches. So we know that when we see this on like the 2 rows below, and this is going to have to be a purl stitch on this next row that we do. Does that make sense? So we know that this stitch here was a knit 1 through the back loop because it makes this little bar here. And that this stitch was a purl stitch on the previous row. So I always look for these little bars right here. So I know, okay, this needs to be purl, knit through the back loop, purl, knit through the back loop. So I'm going to start this row with a knit through the back loop. So that's just an easy way to tell where you're at so that you still continue on with the double race stitch pattern. If you make a mistake and you accidentally do the same wrong side row twice, you will see it eventually because your stitches will line up. They won't keep going on this diagonal. You'll see a row that like is repeated the same. So just look for these little bars here, which are the backs of your knit 1 through the back loop stitches, and you know that this will be a purl stitch on this row. So I'm going to start again with the knit 1 through the back loop and continue working in the pattern repeat until I've gotten my swatch as big as I need or I have finished my project. But that's an easy way, just in case you put your work down and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know what row I'm on. Or if, again, like I said, if you are doing some kind of shaping and you're not sure what stitch should come next, that's just an easy way to know where you're at in the pattern and what row you're on. But this is a fairly simple stitch to master, and it works up rather quickly, and it creates just a beautiful texture. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish out a couple more rows in my double race stitch. Okay, so I have finished my little swatch and I've bound off. And here you can see how beautiful the double race stitch will look when you're all finished. This is the right side of the work. This is what the back side of the work will look like. Both are really unique and pretty and have an amazing texture to them. If you want to give the double race stitch a try in a project, you can check out the free pattern for my brand new Wesson vest, which I will put a link to in the description below, along with links for the yarn and the needles that I used in today's tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you want to, give it a like and make sure to subscribe to find more knit and crochet videos.